How's it, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Tourism Talks podcast. If you do like this episode, do me a favor, smash that like button. If you're not subscribed just yet, please subscribe. It helps the channel out loads. If you want audio versions only, we are available on Podchaser, Samsung, Podbean, Spotify, and Amazon Music. So you can go download the podcast over there if you'd like. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next one. So I'm going live in three. Well, not live. We're just recording. But yeah, 3, 2, 1. How's it, Leon? How's it, guys? First of all, welcome to the podcast. My name is JD. I am your host, and we're sitting here with Leon. All right, Leon. Well, the little bit that I know of him, he is supposed to be a bird guide. Or bird fanatic, but from what I've seen on his Facebook profile, he is a lot more, and they do a lot more traveling. So, Leon, tell us a bit more about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, hi there. Thanks for having me on the talk. I'm 48 years old. I've been guiding basically since started in the very late 90s. Started the usual, basically worked at a safari lodge, being a sort of big five guide. So basically, when I got tired of the safari lodge environment, I was looking for something else, and bird guiding seemed to be a good option. You know, you're traveling around for however many days looking at birds and whatever, but you're not based at a safari lodge. You can still have a home and all that. So I kind of got involved with this company that I'm a partner in now, Lawsons Birding and Wildlife Safaris. I first started freelancing for them back in, I think, 2005, and then by 2007, I moved to Nelspruit here to join the company permanently, and that's where I've been since. So leading birding, wildlife, and photo safaris all over Africa.
Okay, awesome. So you guys don't just do South Africa, but you travel into Africa, and can you name the countries that we do?
Yeah, we basically, Namibia is probably our next most popular one, but we also do parts of Botswana and Zimbabwe. Less often countries like Zambia and Malawi, but then we're trying, my personal big push is to get into East Africa. So I've done Tanzania and a couple of trips to Kenya so far. So that's a little bit of a new area for me, but very exciting to get into new areas and see new birds.
That's something I was just about to push on, is the new birds theory. Okay, so you do tours, or your company does tours in all these areas, right? Do you physically lead the tour? If you are the guide, do you physically lead the tour in all those areas, or do you go along and you get let's say a help guide or a local guide that has more knowledge, or do you just know all the birds in all the areas?
No, I don't know all the birds. It depends on which country. Like Namibia, it's next door, and it's easy enough to do yourself. So we do everything there, just like we would in South Africa, driving the vehicle and all that. But when you start going to further places like Zambia and East Africa, then we team up with a local operator who has the vehicles and the drivers / guides. So they don't always know their birds. So on those tours, you sort of fill the tour leader capacity. So you're not actually driving and doing that kind of work, but you are there to make sure that you are seeing the birds. So you kind of do need to know the birds. So it's tricky beforehand. You've got to do a lot of studying, and then hope for the best when you're there.
And that is always difficult because, I mean, as a guide myself, birding very seldom got my interest. I started off guiding, like I said, snakes, spiders, scorpions, bugs, creepy crawlies. I used to like the things that people didn't like. That was my whole thing in life is, I mean, yes, a rhino is cool and a leopard is cool and they all need our help. But there's a lot of people that care about rhino because this is this nice big unicorn that people like, But not very many people like snakes, and not very many people like spiders. So that's where I started doing my focus on. And then very later on, I started doing birds as well, and trying to broaden my knowledge base. And someone that really helped me, and this is something I also want to find out from you, someone that helped me with my birding was a fellow guide, Rudolf. All right, Rudolf Roblar. And as a kid, he was a bird fanatic. His mom sent him on all the bird courses, and they used to be up in, I don't know where, like bird get-togethers, and everyone just goes into the field and they go look for birds. So how do you find was your best way of learning about the birds and the bird species? Was it via a book or via, let's say, a mentor?
Um, yeah, I guess my early mentor was mainly my parents and my grandfather. But the thing with growing up birding, it's almost like the knowledge is not completely, but a lot of that knowledge by the time I was in my 20 whatever's when I started guiding, I've always had the knowledge. Obviously, it
Okay.
didn't always apply to further afield like East Africa. So learning for new places, I think the apps and the books are probably the best way. But then if you do get a guide who has the local knowledge, of course,
Yeah.
that's the main thing. A good guide who knows, you can tell a testicular straight away which one it is, where you got to thumb through books and look at distribution maps and stuff.
I've always used the hack of if
So
someone
yeah,
asks me, if someone, especially if they're not very bird savvy, they're like, "What bird is it?" I'm like, "No, it's a LBJ. It's fine, you know." It's the easiest answer. But obviously not always the right answer. Okay, no, that's interesting. No, Dolph also, that guy, he would walk and we would be talking random stuff, and all of a sudden he's like, "Stop! Did you hear that? Did you hear that? It's let's say a double-banded sandgrouse." And I'm like, "What the hell? I didn't even hear the bird," you know? No, it's. I think you birders have a very different like brain function. Your brain is running, but your ears are always out for those sounds to hear what you can find. All right, and now
yeah,
you.
that's what I enjoy about it is it really keeps you in tune with your environment. Your ears are always like an animal. Your ears are on the lookout for sounds and things, which every average everyday person they're not in that kind of space. But if you go even in the garden or wherever you are, you don't have to be birding, but your ears are always listening for odd birds, etc.
It's interesting how your brain wanders in that direction. Like me being a snake fanatic, when I go onto someone's property, especially from a young age when I wasn't, worried about them that much. My parents used to talk to them. I'd go off and I'd find stuff that I can lift up and look under to see if I can find snakes. And I mean, it's the same for you birders. It's easier for you because you can be in conversation and hear a bird on the side and automatically go for it. But I love
That's
that
right,
mentality.
yeah.
Now you mentioned birds apps and bird books and so on. Now there are loads of them out there. Some of them picture guides and some of them photographic guides. Do you have favorites, or what do you recommend for someone that wants to get into birding?
There's a lot of, like you say, there's a lot of new stuff on the market, and as far as apps go, I'm not really even all these new apps that are being made available all the time. Some of them you got to pay for, so I'm not going to pay for apps when I don't really know what they like. In terms of books, I still like the Roberts Field
All
Guide.
right.
You had the old Roberts. For older folks, you mentioned Roberts, they think about that massive
Big,
heavy
thick
book, but
Bible.
yeah, the Bible of birding. Yeah, but they brought out field guides more recently, and their newest one is very comprehensive. I like that one. In terms of apps, well, the ones I have, I've got the Sasol, which is not bad for the pictures. I've got nowadays calls are available quite easily, which they weren't in the early days. So I've got some of the Roberts, I think the Roberts bird calls. But there's great new apps on the market like the Firefinch and the Bird Pro, which I'm not really familiar with. There's also, a lot of people that don't want to pay for apps. There's Merlin from USA, from Cornell University. Their app is not bad at all for a freebie. And also the African Bird Club has released a free app. And I think they now cover all African countries,
Oh
or nearly
wow.
all anyway. So you got free apps you don't have to pay anything for, which is fantastic.
That's good because a lot of people, like especially guides, start off on a very strict budget, obviously, and one of the main things, and you can agree or disagree here, but one of the more important things for me as a birder is you need good pair of binoculars, right?
Oh yeah,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
for the most important thing.
Yeah, so it helps to not have to spend extra bucks on apps or books, all right? But yeah, books. When you're looking at books, I have an opinion on whether you should use a photographic book or a picture, like the sketchbook. Do you have a
Yeah.
preference between the two or not?
Well, I think if I had to choose one, I would take the ones with the drawings because they show you just that many features and angles
Exactly.
that
Okay.
they don't, you know, in the photo guides, they usually have one, maybe two pictures. So it doesn't always show the features properly. But on the other hand, the photograph really speaks to you, whereas the drawing, yeah, some of the drawings are better than others. Some of them are, you know, drawing doesn't immediately tell you exactly what the bird looks like.
Uh,
But yeah, I say if I had to choose, I would take the picture guides with the drawing showing all the features, etc.
No, I 100% agree, and my reasoning is the same as you. You've got more detail in the sketches, and not only that, but with pictures, photography, it's often, especially with some of your birds that live in more dense forested areas, it's difficult to get a picture with good lighting, and under the wrong lighting conditions, color could also be different. So you might think, oh, this is a picture, this is what the bird looks like, but meanwhile, he's got a bit of a different shade of green or whatever. So yeah,
Yeah, I know that.
that's
That's
why I
very
like the
true. But on
sketches.
the other hand, you know, as pictures, people are getting better and better photographs all the time with new, you know, mirrorless cameras and in-flight modes and all that. So I think the pictures will improve. You know, if you look at the old picture guides, I think they're all scanned from slides and they're all grainy, shocking
Yeah,
pictures, you know. But I think the new ones are going to be that much better.
no, that is awesome. Now tell me quickly, next part of equipment, your binoculars, we've discussed it already. Um, will you give us information on what binoculars you use and maybe a reasoning as to why?
Yeah, well, cost is always the factor with binoculars. I mean, if cost a factor, you'd go for Swarovskis. Probably, I think Swarovskis, Leicas, and Zeiss are the kind of at the top. But they're very expensive. I mean, you're talking a major investment. So my work binoculars are actually Vortex
Oh,
Vipers,
yeah.
10 by 30 42s. Now, Vortex is actually really a brilliant make. I mean, they
I agree, 100%.
less than half the price of the big guns, but they come with, importantly, lifetime guarantee. And on, you know, you look through one and then the other, if they're both brand new, you're not going to see a hell of a lot of difference. So I like those. And I've also got a pair of Zeiss 10 by 32s compact, with sort of compact that I use more in my personal birding, which I really like.
All right,
But yeah,
yeah.
Vortex, I've always recommend Vortex.
I've got
Brilliant,
the
brilliant
Vortex Diamondbacks 12 by 10, no, 12 by 50s, I think. And
big set.
yeah, like I did during the course of COVID. So I've got my own tourism company as well, where we do meerkat tours specifically. But during COVID, obviously things got a bit quiet, and I went into a different venture. I went to work on a farm as a hunting guide, something that I've never done personally. I've always been a guide, so I know how to get close to animals. And personally, I'm not a big hunter. I've shot one or two animals in my life, and that's about it. You know, like the odd occasion. But yeah, took this opportunity and eventually got myself this pair of binoculars, because we hunt in the farm we were on. It was like deep in the mountains. It was hectic, and you need to spot animals from so far away out in the little karoo. So yeah, the Vortex, I 100% agree. It's such a good brand, such good visibility. And then, as you said, the lifetime guarantee. If those things break, you take it in and they give you. And they said it's a lifetime, no bullshit guarantee. So they just give you a new pair. All right, no, that is good. And I mean, Vortex's equipment gets tested to the max. I 100% agree with those. Then, when you're looking at the lower end quality, like gear, let's say Bushnell, what else is there? Optimax or Optics or something like that. Nikon. Do you have any of those that you would recommend, perhaps?
I've used Bushnells and I had issues with them. So yeah, if they're new, they're good. I don't know if they have if they last, if they have the legs. I've heard good things about the Nikon Monarchs.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
Nikon's obviously from the photo side is very good gear. So I think you won't go wrong with Nikons either.
we had two pairs of Nikon Monarchs 10 by 42s that we used for the guides, and really good visibility, good durability, because they were put through their paces. People just chucking them in the cruiser or the Land Rover while you're driving around, flopping around. So Yeah, we put them through the paces, and the Nikon Monarchs. I would think we had was it a 10x42s or 8x42s? I think 8x42s, and they were really well. All right, no, that's good. And I mean, those Nikons go for I think 1,800 to 4-ish. I can't remember the exact price, but yeah, so that's a really more affordable pair of binoculars. I think my Vortex Diamondbacks went for about $5,000, $4,000.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think people should try to avoid the old Poro Prism type binoculars. You know, the ones that old style where
yeah,
you're holding it out here, but the eyepieces are here.
yes,
You know, the Poro Prisms.
we've got a
I'd
pair of
rather
them.
go for the roof prisms, which has the straight cylinders. Yeah, those old Poro Prisms. That's a relic.
Exactly, we use them as a display on the side there. We've got some old ones and those big black bulky ones. So yeah, no, it's interesting how the technology advances and how things change. All right, now quickly tell me. I quickly want to find out more about your tours though, because I'm really interested in what you guys do and so on. So tell me a bit more. What is the basics of a tour from start to end? What do you do? If I'm going to, let's say we're going to Tanzania.
Multi-day. Okay, well, I would fly up there maybe the night before, or we all gather at a hotel the night before, and then the next morning our guides come in their beautiful stretched Land Cruisers, and we hop in, load the bags, and then we're off, on our northern circuit, visit Tarangire National Park a couple of days, and then up to Ngorongoro Crater, and then down to Ndutu and the Serengeti. So that's sort of 10, 12 days. Although we might have a couple of days in Arusha, visiting Arusha National Park at the beginning, looking for the black and white colobus and cool birds in the forests there. And then, all the way through to Serengeti and fly out at the end back to Arusha. So, Tanzania is very exciting.
So it's like a 12-day trip, you said? Almost.
Yeah, Tanzania is about 12 days, Northern Circuit.
So 12 days for the clients. What is your total time that you actually spend on a trip like that? Because you fly up early.
It just depends on the flight logistics. It'll probably pretty much be the same, but I may have to go in a day early and leave a day late, just depending on the flights.
Okay, so you don't spend much more time there, but obviously the planning and setting up takes a bit more. Do you do a lot of that personally, or do you have people in the company that is assigned to do this?
A bit of both. I mean, we do so many tours. There's no one person can handle everything. That's for sure. So, I've sort of spearheaded the East African stuff. So it's a funny system, because I travel a lot. I'm often out of the office. So what happens often is I'll get the ball rolling, and then other people will take over the sort of nitty-gritty and the logistics. So my role is get it set up, work out the itineraries and all that, and then other people do the details, and then I go and enjoy the safari as well. So it works well for me.
It sounds like you've got the good life there. All right. Now, I should have actually sent you these pictures, because I took a couple of pictures from your Facebook page, and I'll put them in here as well as part of the things that you have here. I'll put your details, everything in. But okay, let's look at a couple of these pictures, and I'm going to tell you why I chose them, even if you maybe don't see them. The first picture I have here is the I think this is the half-collared kingfisher. So yeah, kingfishers, right? This is like one of the iconic birds out there. People love these birds. Do you spend, when you're doing your birding trips, do you spend a lot of time on rivers in makoros, kayaks, canoes, boats, or whatever? Or do you walk around the river banks looking for water-based birds, or is it client depending what they want to do?
It depends on the itinerary. I mean, some countries and some tours lend themselves very, very well to boat trips. So like our Namibia to Vic Falls trip, once you get up into the Caprivi, you've got plenty of boat trips. and boats seem to allow you to get quite close to the bird. So yeah, a lot of birding boat trips in certain parts of of Africa where it lends itself towards that. In South Africa, we do some boat trips, but not that many. I think it's a little bit of an untapped market, and maybe I'm just not aware of potential boat trips, but it's always exciting birding by boat. So a bit of both. That kingfisher you're talking about was on foot, so it wasn't from a boat.
Okay.
But yeah, I do like birding boat trips. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right. And birding from boats. You said you've done a couple, especially up in the Caprivi and so on. I'm assuming the Delta as well. Have you had any cool encounters on the boats? Because obviously in those areas you encounter crocodiles, you encounter hippos as well. Have you had any interesting or close encounters?
Personally, not. No, I haven't done the area I haven't done much of is the actual Okavango Delta.
Okay.
So that's obviously rife with hippos and things. When you go up in the Caprivi, there are hippos and crocs around, but they don't seem to hassle you at all, and they're quite used to people. There's so much boat traffic there, with all the local fishermen on little canoes and stuff, that I think they either just move away or completely ignore you. So thankfully, no, I haven't had a run-in with a hippo in a wonky canoe yet.
Oh, that's good. Fortunate. Good record. All right. The next picture I've got here is a fish eagle flying, all right, caught mid-air. And when I saw this picture, one thing sprang to mind. It was like this call of the fish eagle. To me, that is the iconic bird sound for South Africa or Africa in general. If I hear fish eagle and guinea fowl is another one, and guinea fowl is a bit more irritating and not as, fancy smancy as the fish eagle. But these two birds, to me, are iconic South Africa or African birds, right? Do you have anything else that you might add, or do you think there's a different bird that also could be iconic for different areas?
Well, I think for South Africa in general, the Hadida has got to be the most iconic.
That's only if you're a local. That's only if you're a local. I've got a very interesting story with Hadidas. Now go for it.
Now carry on. Let's hear the story.
So I've had this love-hate history with the Hadidas. All right, as a kid, I can't remember what I was doing. I think I was riding bicycle or something, but I was small, like 5-6 years old, and I fell off the bicycle. I think that was how it happened. I can't remember exactly how it happened, but as I fell down, this Hadidas started calling, all right? And for those of you guys that don't know, the Hadida, when it calls, it's like, it sounds like they're laughing at you, right? It's like this funny, we always joke and say the Hadida is the only bird that is afraid of heights, because as it's flying, you hear the whole time, Now, I had this thing about this stupid Hadida that was laughing at me because I fell off my bike. So they had this roosting spot up in the pine tree, and I'd climb into the pine tree at like 5 years old with bricks in my backpack, so I could sit there and wait for them to come nest. And when they come sit down underneath me, I'd try and lob the bricks, and obviously they always saw me and always flew away. I never got one, but I got so angry at them laughing at me because the stupid bird, why would a bird laugh at me? And it was just this relationship I had with the Hadidas as a kid. No, but I hear they're very good for.
I think most South Africans
they hate them. I don't think there's much love for them, but they're actually very good for the environment. I mean, they eat the snails that carry bilharzia, if I'm not mistaken.
They eat a lot of good pests out of your garden, at least. So yeah, they are good birds.
All right, no, definitely. Okay, what else? Ooh, I've got a picture. I think it's one of your older pictures on the page, but it looks probably going to be the big migration. But it's a whole bunch of zebras standing like chest height in the water drinking, and then there's the blue wildebeest in the background also drinking. It must be epic. So apart from just seeing birds, you guys see obviously loads of wildlife in those areas. It must be epic having experienced these animals, and for your clients as well. They must love it.
Yeah, I mean, well, birds and wildlife go hand in hand. You've got to have a really hardcore birder who's not interested in animals whatsoever, which you can have. They do occur, but most of our clients are both. Maybe they like a birding tour because it gives more exposure to everything.
Uh,
If you take a general safari, often the guides are just racing around to show you lion, leopard, elephant, buffalo, and rhino, and they kind of almost ignore everything else. Whereas with birding, you start small. You look at all the birds, and then because you're driving slowly, you start looking at all the animals. So I think you actually take in a lot more. But yeah, I mean, the wildlife, Africa is synonymous with wildlife. So the wildlife is spectacular, to
oh.
say the least.
To add on to that, I had a discussion with another gent. He does hiking tours, Anthony, and he said that walking is such a good exercise because you take time, and while walking you're able to see different things. When you're running or jogging or cycling, you're a bit more of a speed, so you're a bit more focused on where you're going. You don't want to crash, you don't want to run and trip over something, so you get to take more time. And this reverts back to you now, where on a normal safari, when you're looking for the big rhinos and things, you're driving a bit faster because it's easier to see them. Whereas when you're looking for birds, you're driving slower, you're observing a bit more clearly, and the next moment you see there's a leopard sitting in a tree somewhere that other guides have just driven past. And I had a very similar experience because, like I said, I like snakes and spiders and lizards and stuff. So while I was doing safaris, I'd drive really slow and I'd have my eyes all over the place. And we ended up seeing, in general, more of the other game species than the other guides, purely by chance, because we were driving slower and looking for other animals as well. Okay, I've pulled up a new picture here. I don't know if it's you, but it's a gentleman standing with a nice big lens. And then there are loads of birds flying all over them. Looking at, it's difficult to see, but looking, because it's only silhouettes of the birds, it's either parakeets or maybe bee eaters.
I think that's the common bee eaters. Yeah.
Bee eaters, and there's loads of them. I haven't seen them this many. We've been up to Caprivi, we've done the Delta and so on, and that's where I got my first sightings of the bee eaters and the rollers and so on, the lilac-breasted rollers. But I haven't seen that many. Do they swarm like that normally?
It's their breeding season. It's normally September is the prime month. So there's a couple of colonies along the Zambezi River and a few other rivers up there. That was the Zambezi where they nest. And I think in that colony there was at least 20,000 birds. It was unbelievable. It's really a birding bucket list experience, boy. It's amazing.
Oh, that's crazy. Okay, and then one next picture, and you have to help me here. It's a Bateleur flying, and there's I don't know what it is. It's another eagle species that's basically just dodging it. Looks like the two birds are fighting in the sky. Do you know which picture I'm referring to?
I do. Yeah, that was a Bateleur and a Marshall eagle.
Okay, yes. Is it a young Marshall eagle?
National Park. Yeah, he was slightly young. He was almost adult, just had a little bit of the sort of sub-adult plumage left. But yeah, he was flying around, and a resident pair of Bateleurs didn't take too kindly to him, so they dive bombed him, which was quite cool to see.
So is that to do with territoriality? Do they want to fend off other birds of prey from their area, or why?
Yeah, basically it's competition and threat. So competition for prey in that area, and also potential threat to their nestlings and things like that. So they saw that Marshall eagle out of the area totally.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the Marshall eagle is our biggest bird of prey in South Africa or Africa?
Yeah, it's one of the big three of, the Marshall, the Crown, and the Veros, or the three big ones. Some sources say the Marshall's the biggest. I've looked in the books before, and sometimes like Veros will be dimensions will be bigger, but it's not as heavy. Or crowned eagle is heavier, but not as big dimensions. So, but generally, yeah, it's definitely one of the big three, and probably the most powerful.
Okay. And I mean, yeah, powerful. You mentioned powerful. I've heard of them taking down small antelope species like duiker and steenbok, right? It's like a 15 to 20 kilogram animal.
Yeah, for sure. No, they take all sorts of biggish prey. Yeah.
So when they take down something that big, do they just take it down and then eat it there on the ground? They don't fly away with something that big, do they? Or do they?
No, they can't. They can't
Okay.
actually fly with it, so they'll consume what they can there, which is actually reminds me of in the Kruger National Park. And I'm not exactly sure what happened, but we saw in our video Dave Marshall feeding on a full adult female impala next door.
Wow.
Now, I wasn't sure if the impala had been hit by a car or what. It didn't have any sort of physical signs, and anecdotal evidence from other people at the scene was the marshal caught this impala, which I can't say for sure, but
That is
it was feeding on
hectic.
an adult impala. So I don't know what happened, but yeah, who knows?
That is crazy. So yeah, it's scary. And I mean, you see these video clips of bird of prey sometimes going for small children, and I mean, they go at those children because of a food source. It's not a. I don't think they're defensive towards humans, right? So it's usually they want to get that kid
No,
and eat it.
yeah, there's documented or recorded attacks on people by big birds of prey. Yeah.
No, that is hectic. Okay, now the Verreaux's eagle, or as it used to be known, the black eagle, right?
Yeah.
That is big. I've had personal encounters with it on multiple occasions. We've done some rehabilitation. My dad is into, or used to be into, falconeering a lot. So we had owls growing up. While we were kids, there was owls in the house that was busy being rehabbed. Some of them got hit by vehicles, got concussion. Some of them couldn't fly. We had Ollie that couldn't fly. Who used to, on the quad, you drive the quad. And that was his flying experience. No one knows why he couldn't fly. We never figured out. But on the quad, he'd sit, and then as you're driving, he sets out his wings and he's sitting there. And it's like he's gliding.
Wow.
It was such a cool experience.
Yeah, lovely.
And Ollie was such a naughty. He was a Cape Eagle owl. All right. And
really? Wow.
yeah. And he was such a naughty little freaking animal because my sister hates birds, all right? I've got a younger sister. Back then, she was probably like 4 or 5 years old. And he would sit in the room, so he had free roam in the house. We had him wander around. All the animals. We do rehab on a lot of animals. We've had skunks. We've had meerkats, birds of prey. You name it, we probably had it, all right? Hartebeest, the works. Now, Ollie would sit in the house, and his head would come around the corner like this, just the head bobbing in. And he would try and find my sister, and my sister be watching TV, so she's sitting with her little feet up. She's 4 or 5 years old, and Ollie is sitting there, and he's looking, and they come back, looking, and the next moment he charges, and he's got his wings open, and I don't know if you've seen an owl, or probably have, but when they come up, they clip their beaks like this,
Yeah, both
yes,
snapping, yeah.
and she starts bawling her eyes out and running, and this bird would chase her. And I don't know why, but the birds we've had always hated my sister. They torment her because they never hurt her. Ollie never bit her or anything. It's just he teased her, and it's as if he enjoyed it. I had a crow called Jack, and this crow would have my sister would be outside, and the crow sees her. And now Jack never flew very high. The one time he did, a thermal caught him, and he landed up on a mountain somewhere, and I had to walk up the freaking mountain to go fetch him. You could just hear him squawk up there. But he would fly very low and like chase my sister, just fly just behind her all the way, just to torment her, just to chase her around. So I don't know what it is with birds and my sister, but yeah, they don't like her at all.
She's scarred, is she?
Yeah. But my initial story about the Verreaux's eagle is they're massive, all right? Their talons are crazy. And the falconer that we visited once, he had gloves. He had specific gloves with steel reinforcement in the glove, because the glove came up to his elbow. And he told us that if the bird wanted to, if the wrong sound was made while he was resting on his arm, even though it's a tame bird, if the wrong sound, let's say someone gives a little squeak, right? It could often trigger a response. And he says there is the potential for that bird to to break his bones. Now, like I said, I don't know how true it is, if the guy was just trying to make up a good story, but holy cow, that was, to me, eye-opening to realize how powerful these birds actually are. So if you'd say it took down an impala, I mean, there is a world that I do believe that. I mean, that could maybe happen. You never know.
Yeah, they filmed those. I forget. I think it's maybe golden eagle or something like that in Asia, hitting deer off on the slopes.
Oh yes, I've seen it.
I'm not sure they were pure wild birds, maybe trained birds.
Okay.
But they hunted those deer or some kind of animal on the slopes there. So yeah, they got a lot of power.
I think ibex, if I'm not mistaken, or ibex is from America.
Yeah, something like that.
But yeah, no, it is. I know that animal, man. I'm trying to think of it now. But yeah, it's crazy to think the power that these animals have with their hollow bones and how it happens. All right, some more pictures. Let's see if I've got something. All right, I've got a small little plane, airplane, and you guys are walking. So basically what I got from that is just you guys go to very remote areas sometimes. Is there places that you have that is only available to you, or do you go to generally more populated areas? What type of environment do you choose when you're looking at an area or scouting an area that you potentially want to do to visit?
Yeah, no, we don't really go anywhere that's that off the beaten track. There are other companies that have more of a footprint in Africa than we do, that are going to Angola and Cameroon and all those, even Congo and stuff. So yeah, we haven't got that wild yet, but I guess you want, it's nice to get to wild places, but you also want the infrastructure and
the luxury.
So reasonably comfortable. Yeah. So it depends on your type of clientele. There are birders out there who will sleep in a tent on a mountainside to go and see one particular bird. So we'll do that if people want, but the general is our clients, they're like, a little bit of running water and a bed and stuff like that.
That is it. It's something that I've spoken to some of the clients with while on safaris when I was doing the guiding in a game lodge and so on. So I prefer personally off the beaten track, like 4x4 up this hill, trying to spot animals from up there and then go find them. But I always ask the clients beforehand what is their preferred method, and a lot of them prefer to stay on a tarred road because the drive is more comfortable, right? And exactly, this comes back to you. So you guys cater to, let's say, a more luxurious tour. Your clients sleep in good bedding, good. They have good infrastructure, like you said, warm water, where some of the other tours, they might have a little bag up in a tree that you poke a hole in and shower underneath it,
Yeah. Well, we don't need mega luxury, but just the basics, a little bucket shower, whatever, that's perfectly acceptable. I mean, you'll be surprised in these remote areas what beautiful accommodations and stuff you can have, like a tented safari camp, seasonal, so it's not there permanently, but you got hot water bucket showers, you got the best food coming out of that little kitchen and stuff. So as long as you got a few basics like that, it's perfectly fine.
Now, something that I love is food, all right? And you just mentioned food. There's probably some local dishes out there that some other clients from other areas don't like. Now, as an example, at the lodge we used to go we offered some of the local foods and different menu. It was a la carte. So one of the things that I noticed is the Asians, all right? For some reason, and I'm talking about well, not Asian, let's say Chinese specifically. When they came, they'd order the bobotie, and none of them ever liked the bobotie. All right, because I'm assuming it's part of their culture, is they'd eat it. If they don't like it, they spit it down on this floor right next to them. So we eventually, because we had big groups of them come in, there was certain companies that brought in busloads of them to this lodge, and we eventually put out in the restaurant. We put in our meeting area, our conference room, we built a secret restaurant only for them. Every time they came there, we'd put them there, and even though you tell them don't eat the bobotie, they go for the bobotie, and the next moment you know it's on the floor. So, yeah, is there anything like that you've experienced up there, or is there any of your favorite dishes that you have up there? I mean, like I said, I love food, so let's go.
Yeah, well, talking about bobotie, I mean, now the thing with birding is it tends to pull people from certain countries. So the bulk of our clients are from UK, USA, Australia. So culturally, there's no big surprises, and they tend to love bobotie. Especially, I find the Australians. We have repeats, and whenever they come, they want bobotie and malva pudding. That's their favorites. Something that doesn't really ever seem to go down as well as you'd expect is biltong. We South Africans, biltong all the time, any day, any time, but people, I don't know if it's just the pure raw meat concept or whatever, but you find they nibble at it, but they're not big fans of biltong and dry wors and stuff.
No ways.
It was more for me, so it's fine.
Yeah. It's like, no, when they're packing up the snacks, they're like, no, these people, they love biltong, all the biltong is gone every time they come back. Meanwhile, it's all going to one person. Interesting thing. So, droewors, right? A friend of mine grew up on the farm, and he's got a third kidney, and he had some weird stuff happen to him as a kid, and he ended up only eating bread, biltong and droewors, and chips and stuff like that. He didn't take in other meat sources. He wouldn't eat chicken. He wouldn't really. He'll have a piece of steak or a choppy on the fire from time to time, but nothing else. And he taught me to eat droewors with peanut butter and syrup. And it sounds like a terrible combination, but it is so good. That saltiness coming from the droewors, the creaminess from the peanut butter, and the sweetness from the syrup. It's such a mind-blowing combination.
Yeah, I'll have to give it a try. Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Like I said, I've never heard of something like that. Every time I mention to someone, they shoot it down. But it's really, you've got to try it to understand where it's coming from. Yeah. But yeah, going up to those countries, are there any? What is their food like? Is it close to what we eat, or?
Oh yeah, it's very, very similar. The food, I mean, in most places, unless you start getting a bit further off the beaten track, anywhere that's got lodges and tourism and stuff, the food is quite normal.
Okay.
I mean, there's nothing that strange.
So
if you start going into backcountry, then you're gonna get strange meals, rats cooked on the fire on a stick, that kind of thing. But we've never encountered anything that bad.
I'd love it. I mean, obviously, a rat doesn't sound appealing, but I love the different stuff. All right, something else. So yeah, cane rat on a stick would be good.
It's probably pretty tasty.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I always tell people is who told you what is edible and what not, right? The only way for you to know if something's tasty or not is if you try it, because some people like tomato, some people don't like tomato, right? I mean, I get a gag reflex.
Subjective.
So, yeah, I get a gag reflex if I eat raw tomato, but tomato sauce and tomato cooked into food, I can eat it. It's not like I don't like tomato. It's just raw tomato, I can't. I can't handle it.
I'm in the same boat there.
Yeah. So if I get a toasted ham and cheese tomato sandwich and you try and take the tomato off and it's already got that soggy tomato flavor, it's disgusting. But
I always tell my clients, because when you're birding, you do a lot of packed meals because you don't have time to come back for breakfast and you want to leave early before they serve. So they often do packed meals. And I tell my clients, if I open that and I see a cheese and tomato sandwich, I just fling it over my shoulder into the bush straight away.
Use it as bait. Put it out there for the birds. Yeah, no, it's good. So yeah, no, I'm very keen. I'm very experimental when it comes to food, and I'll eat anything they put in front of me to try it for the first time, and then after that, decide against it or like it or love it.
Try. I see now in the Kruger National Park they're selling these bags of dried mapani worms as a bit of an oddity.
Oh yeah.
So that's.
I've had them before, but that was also not for me. It's this crunchy. We got it fried, so crunchy exterior with the goopy Ugh, inside.
Oh,
No,
no, thank you.
not for me. All right, no, awesome. Okay, now your tours. I mean, you told me you're hectically busy at the moment. Is it with organizing new tours? How regularly do you launch expeditions out into these countries and tours?
Well, basically, we have a bit of a lull through the winter when it's normally the quieter season.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you're not doing office work, because that's an opportunity to get vehicles sorted and stuff like that. But the season kind of starts in August now. So I'll start my first trip on the 2nd, and then I won't really have a solid break until December. So
All right.
I'm just leading 6 tours in the next couple of months or whatever. But we've got a whole lot of other trips on the go. So the office staff, the logistics, and sorting out problems, they're really working hard when we out enjoying the bush and guiding the clients.
All right. Your company. I mean, it's you. How big is the company? Let's say how many staff work at the company total?
Well, we're small at the moment. We want 4 of us basically in terms of office, but we've got a whole collection of freelance guides who we use for guiding the tours that I don't guide. So we're a small company. I think at our biggest before COVID, we were 6 in the office, but obviously, with a COVID and no business for 18 months, we had to cut some staff, and we haven't really sort of bounced back properly yet.
No, okay.
But we're getting there. So yeah, small company.
Small is intimate though, so that's always good. I mean, I prefer the smaller companies.
You can go to, like in terms of restaurants, you can go to the big flashy chain restaurant, or you can go to a small family-owned restaurant.
Yeah, that's it.
Which one's going to be better? There are pros and cons, but obviously, small family restaurant, you often get better service and
That's what I said. It's more intimate. It's such a nice experience. Preferably, and all is each to his own opinion, but preferably I go to smaller companies because, like you said, you don't know what you're going to discover. First of all, if I go to this big fancy restaurant, it's going to be people all around me. It's all busy. So I'm a tour guide. I get to work with people every day. On my off time, I want to not see people. I want to not work with people anymore. So if I go to a restaurant, I'll go off the beaten track to something like that. But no,
definitely.
And I find that you get better service, and these people are just so lovable at these other smaller companies. And I mean, I don't know you guys at all, but it's just the general idea that I get when talking to or working with smaller companies. So no, this is really good.
Attention, yeah.
Now tell us quickly the company itself. When was it started and how was it started?
Well, it was actually opened the doors in, I think it was September of 1990. So that's 33 years ago. And that was started by Peter Lawson. That's where the name Lawsons comes from. He was involved in insurance, but he was always a keen birder. And I guess he was fed up with dealing with claims and stuff, and it was his dream to open a birding tour company, which he did. Now I remember 1990 was even before South Africa was really open to international travel, so I don't think he had many clients in the early days, but he kept at it and he kept it going. He's retired since. I think he retired about 7 years ago. But he built it up, and here we are 33 years later. We're still based a lot on what he started all the way back then.
You say he's retired. What makes you retire from birding? Because to me, as a kid growing up, in my mind, birding was always an old person thing. Like old people did birding, So what makes you retire? When do you know it's enough?
No, let me correct myself. He's not retired from birding.
Okay.
He's always be a birder. I mean, if you're a birder, only time you retire is when you
go deaf and blind.
Basically pass on, or even then, But he's retired from the business. But he's still a keen birder, but obviously his mobility and stuff's an issue now. So he's a garden birder now, really, more than anything else.
Oh, no, awesome. Now, quickly, you guys have the Facebook page. Do you have websites as well that I can link down below for the people? Is it also Lawson's?
Yeah, Lawsons-africa.co.za. Yeah, we got a full-on website there with all of our tours and stuff we offer. Facebook and Instagram. Yeah.
And then for people listening, what would be the best time of the year to actually come visit you guys for the best experience?
Well, in birding terms, it's always is not an easy answer to that question. But in birding terms, you'll see the most species if you come in Southern African summer. So that's normally from about November till end of March are your prime birding months. Because then you've got all the migrants that come from Europe and Asia are here. You've got the intra-African migrants that come south, so they are here. So that's the best time from a birding point of view. But if you're being a safari guide, you'll know when it's wet, it's harder to find the game. So in the midsummer, you can struggle to find big cats and things like that. And they are better in the dry season. But yeah, pure birding, summer's the best. But of course, as we saw this last February, it was pretty wet in this last summer. So you run the risk of rain disrupting your tour. So there's always pros and cons, but we always like to say as well that there's actually no bad time to come. You can have a good birding and experience in the middle of winter even.
No, awesome. That's kind of what I felt there is it's very dependent on certain circumstances. Sometimes you have the rain, sometimes you have a dry season. How did well, South Africa had the dry season. How did the rest of the country of Africa have this last, say, 6 years? Did they also go a bit dry or not that much?
Yeah, when we were in East Africa towards November last year, they were in the middle of a very bad drought, and the rains had supposed to become what they call their short rainy season, or short rains, supposed to hit in October or the end of October, November, and they hadn't, and it was bone dry. So they went through a big drought, but when their rains came, they came quite nicely. So I think they pulled out of that. But I think that the bottom line is, and you'll speak to operators everywhere, you say, okay, well, what's the best time of the year to come? And everyone will say, well, it's just not so easy to say when the rains are going to be anymore.
Yeah.
East Africa traditionally had two distinct rainy seasons, a long rains and a short rains. But those are sort of becoming wishy-washy. You don't know, are they going to be like normal? They're not. I mean, you look at the Cape. Cape's typically winter rains. Now you can get rain through December and can be dry in winter. So this whole climate change is making it very hard to predict when your good weather periods are going to be.
Yeah, use the good word there.
Been up and down, I think.
You use the good word there. I know a lot of people talk about global warming, but I'd say climate change, because we are definitely feeling changes in the climate in different areas. You have some places getting hotter, some places getting colder. Now, I don't know the science about this, and I'm not some conspiracy theorist. I just like the word climate change, because that's what I'm experiencing myself. There's a change in the climate, like getting the summer rainfalls and stuff like that. Last summer we had so much rain here, where I'm from in Oudtshoorn. It's crazy. All right, and then just before we end off, what would be your advice to a new guide, up and coming guide that wants to get into birding? What would be the best avenue to approach?
Well, I think bird guiding is much more of a limited field compared to normal guiding. So you probably find the best way to go is to, if you're new, is to start off being a guide. Like you could be like myself, I started off as a general safari guide. So get the guiding experience. But then always make it known that you've got a special interest in birds. When I was guiding in Sabi Sands, I would have some groups who would try book me because they knew I was good with the birds. Whereas, other guides out there, they can tell you it's a fish eagle or a lilac-breasted roller, but beyond
that's me.
Some of them not so sharp.
That's
so
me.
Get a guiding job, and then keep working on your birds. And get better at birds, and then you can start up. There's more companies opening up all the time that are specializing in birding. So, maybe you get a job as a guide, birding specialist one day. You also need the qualifications. like for GASA, Field Guides Association, you become a SKS birding specialist, special knowledge and skills birding specialist. So that's the paperwork behind your name, that you can say, okay, I am a qualified birding specialist.
No, that's 100%. And to me, papers, unfortunately, I never worried about papers. To me, it's always been about experience. I want to get the experience as good as possible. But yeah, the papers help out so much to have them on the background. And that's why now at the age of 31, I'm doing like courses and studying for the first time in my life, just so I can have papers behind my name. So it is always nice to have that qualification.
Nice.
How do you get your bird qualifications, though, just quickly before we end off?
It's like the SKS birding you have to do. It's a long time since I did it, but it's basically the main component are slide and sound tests, but they base it on biomes. So you can do like arid west, you can do savanna, forest, fynbos, high altitude grassland, or Albany thicket they call it. So South Africa is divided into these biomes, and you have to do a sight and sound test for each of those.
Okay.
You've got to identify a certain number of birds on a slide show, and then they play the calls. So that's the hard one, is to identify these birds by calls. So that's what the SKS birding specialist involves, is sight and sound tests.
All right, no, 100%. Well, thank you very much, Leon. That is freaking insightful. Actually, I've learned a lot. And yeah, we're definitely going to hopefully send some people your way. We're going to send out your links. And is there anything else you want to say before we sign off?
No, just thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun, and yeah, I've enjoyed it, and nice to talk about what I do. I hope people find it interesting.
Well, I definitely did, and I mean, the people that do this show is all about animals, so yeah, let's go for it. Awesome. Thank you very much for having me and for allowing me to chat to you. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you guys for signing in. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you around for the next episode. Peace out.